Hello, 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 people. Welcome back to another episode of the USL Show. We are back after a long Labor Day weekend, and we decided to take the week off. But we are here this week, and we got a whole lot to talk about. The West is getting interesting. We got some Jägermeister tomorrow. The Super League's been a ton of fun. And don't look now, but Tormenta McKeever just may be coming. But we'll get into that in just a little bit. First things first, Phil, how are you?
I'm good. I had a nice Labor Day weekend in Cleveland, and added another MLB stadium to my list. Made the pilgrimage to Jacobs/Progressive Field, the site of the greatest sporting achievement of the 21st century, the Cubs winning the 2016 World Series. And I've got my Ricardo Pepi FC Augsburg fit on today, so we're on a different level tonight on a Tuesday.
This feels like manifesting. Ryan, how are you?
Yeah, doing well. I had a futures bet that I'd placed back in February randomly hit for me this morning. The result came through a couple weeks ago, and I just randomly got the payout this morning. And the moment didn't feel as accomplished as I thought it would feel hitting something that I'd called like 7 months ago.
It was your Ange to Forest prop bet.
It was a bet, but I did think Nuno was going to leave at least before the season ended.
I don't feel like he did.
Nada Thanaikos, I think is the official name of the club now. Maybe AEK Nottingham, something like that.
John, how are you?
Doing well. Every time we take a week off, it feels like it's been months since we've done an episode when we get back into it.
Yeah, I never know what to do. It's like, oh my God, what I forget. And I'm always get up and I'm like, episode. And I'm like, oh yeah, we didn't do that. So I always forget to, it's granted, sometimes I just forget to upload. And then then the week that we don't record, I'm just like, oh my God, I got to upload right now. We didn't do that. So anyway, want to go ahead and give a special shout out to some good friends, Luke Loudon, David Horn, Josh, Dylan Reed, William Lance, Sandy Lester, Ryan Smelter, Matt Peel, Andrew Towsley, All of the Hedgehog, Kunal Patel, MOS, NF Fresh 30, Tim Knox, Rion Lacara, Stephen Howard, Jeremy Churchman, Alberto Aguilar, Noah Telford, Michael Fuchs, Joshua Duder, John Fuller, Christopher Cohn, Frank Anthony, John Hunt. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. Seriously, it is awesome. We cannot do this without you. You mean the world to us. And if you want to have your name shout out at the beginning of every single episode, go become a patron subscriber. And if you don't want to do that and you just want to support us, like, subscribe, share it to all your USL friends. So let's go ahead and get into some stuff. We don't really have much news besides Charleston and Louisville have secured their place in the playoffs. Although I do want to
water is also wet.
Yeah, is the rumor. But we didn't have any formal
big
news.
If true.
Big if true. I just kind of want to throw out two quick hitters. Two big strikers returned to the USL in Vassell and Aji Berry, which is pretty cool. One of them in Aji Berry, who had a goal-scoring record in Colorado Springs, and then Nick Marcanic decided to go crazy. And then Vassell, journeyman, who I thought his time in the U.S. was done after he left the Loyal, and he comes back. So I just kind of want to hear some quick thoughts on those two.
I mean, Vassell, we've seen, I think, in 2 starts at this point. He looks spectacular. He looks like the player that Colorado Springs was missing, in all honesty. I think what was underrated during his time in San Diego is that he's decent with the ball at his feet. He's an active presser. You look at someone like Kyle Vassell and think, okay, big number 9, going to sit in the box. It's the everything else with his game that I think has been so impactful already for the Switchbacks. That's a team that has figured out the defense in a major way. They've got the striker they need. They feel like they could make a dark horse run again, frankly.
I guess for me, I'm looking at Aji Berry out in Hartford, where they lose Yang, and you're like, man, that is an absolute gut punch. How can they recover from this? Boy, did Burke recover from this.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that is even maybe bigger than the Haji Berry signing itself is just the momentum that Hartford's maintained after Dieng, because I was convinced that like, oh well, this nice feel good run that Hartford's been on is over now, and they've proven that they are more than just Dieng. And I think the boost of signing someone like Haji Berry with the pedigree that he's got, it just is the sort of boost that can carry this team into to keep that feel good feeling and just show that they are serious about competing and not simply a feel good story, I guess.
And reuniting with Burke for a Hartford team who's won 3 of their last 4 and sit just 1 point out of a home playoff spot in the East right now, they could very well be a team that you wouldn't want to draw in the first round.
I think the thing that is interesting with Haji Berry, everyone thinks about that season where he set the scoring record, right? He came back to Colorado Springs the next year and really kind of took a back seat to a certain degree. Like, he got 9 assists, was one of the league leaders in expected assists. He's willing to be more of a creator. And I think as we look at Haji Berry on the wrong side of 30, coming off a couple seasons in Egypt where he didn't get a lot of game time, the fact that he can set the table for someone like Amishi and Galina, other players in that team, and has that unselfishness and an instant system fit for Brendan Burke, I think that's going to be meaningful. I'm not expecting him to come out and be Mamadou Dieng right away. We know he has that goal scoring in him, but if it takes some time for him to bleed in, there is an alternative route, and that's all the better for Hartford, frankly.
I think the biggest thing with Berry, sorry to cut you off, Phil, is that especially players who've been around this league for a while, which a lot of these players end up becoming career USL guys. I think everybody knows that Berry has a striker gravitational pull to him, that everybody knows you better get a body on this guy or he's going to kill you. Even if he's a little bit out of form, everybody knows that who he is and who he can be, that even if he's not producing goals, he's going to produce goals. I'll kind of look at Albert Dikwa year 1 with Rhode Island last year. JJ Williams was getting chances because Albert Dikwa was just making runs off the ball, and everybody was really afraid of him scoring. Like, he was creating space by existing. Haji Berry is a guy that has a similar effect.
Yeah, I was trying to make sure that I had my numbers right. 25 goals, 5 assists, 16 goals, 9 assists in his last USL season. He still contributes, and like, I think the thing that made Haji Berry so dangerous in Colorado, I mean, he basically made the entire organization play without a number 10 for like their entire existence, because he was so dangerous in dropping into those, like, into the space, like creating that sort of hole in the box because he's dragging defenders out of position and then playing those balls out wide and then getting into the box and getting the service. So yeah, he's dangerous all over the pitch. And I'm also enjoying the Emilio Estevez of Brendan Burke here. The opening scene of Mighty Ducks 2, just getting the gang back together of like all of the guys from, come on, we're gonna go, like, and they're all rollerblading through downtown Hartford.
It's a shame they sent a Deshane Beckford down to Westchester. It really could add the gang back together.
Right. I mean, it's a short drive, so
yeah. Get Elvis Amo off the indie bench and bring him back.
AJ was a Bethlehem Steel guy. Never mind. He wasn't a Colorado guy. How many of the Bethlehem Steel and Burke guys? Ben Afemu still rolling around? Can we get
Brendan Allen?
Can we get Aubrey off the Cowboys and send him back to Brendan Burke? All right. Hey, we ready to roll to some Super League?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's start off with the Ascent versus Tampa Bay Sun. Honestly, what a lot of people thought the final would be last year before Fort Lauderdale pulled off a pretty major upset. Mia Corbin gets started right where she left off. with a goal in the 40th minute. The Sun get too fast with Nacello and Provenzano. There we go. And it looks like maybe that's all it's going to be. Shut up shop. The defending champions show who they are. But the ascent up through Madison Mercado gets the equalizer. And it was a fun match happening up in Charlotte. A lot of the names that you recognize, a couple of new ones if you watched these teams last year, but really just fun soccer all the way around.
Felt like a game where Carolina, if this was 3 months from now, would have had the chemistry in the final third to kind of put this thing away. They completed 143 passes in the final third and only got into the box about 15 times. That's not great. But you see players like Mackenzie George, who was so good with Brooklyn last year, coming into the mix. You start to see the vision. For me, Tampa Bay, maybe a little bit too passive, which I think is contrary to a lot of the DNA we saw from them in the title run. A little too willing to sit back, really looking for that home run ball whenever they recovered possession. It felt like the risk appetite was maybe a little bit too much of trying to get one big play, see what you can get from Nacello. That said, when they figured it out in the second half, pressed a little bit higher, Giammona was active, that fuels the go-ahead goal. They should have sat back more at the end. I've never seen a team pressing as actively as they did in the lead up to that Mercado equalizer. You just don't see clubs in the 92nd minute sending 8 players forward in the press. More power to them. I appreciate the swing, but yeah, Mercado, big play from her, great finish from the edge of the box. I am doing the early seasons thing where I think there are good takeaways for both sides, but genuinely, like, you have the strengths, you know where you can improve. Not the end of the world. These are going to be teams in the playoff mix.
I was going to say the pressing from Tampa Bay was what eventually led to them taking a hold of this game. And I do think that they probably will take that away in terms of lessons learned, that they probably showed Carolina a little bit too much respect out of the gate, because we know how dangerous Carolina is. And I think they maybe were a bit too respectful. That being said, anytime Mia Corbin is on the ball for Carolina, you sort of hold your breath, because you just don't if she's in space and has options in front of her, she basically can do anything. And then the goal from Maddie Mercado, it sort of underlines just how this Carolina Ascent team was last year, where there is no situation in which they're fully beaten until the final whistle blows. And even the forward just grabbing a hold of the ball and dribbling 50 yards and hammering a left-footed shot into the roof, this is the sort of thing that they can do. And the group just never seems completely phased or frazzled by playing from behind or anything like that. So yeah, I think it just showed the strengths of both teams eventually. And like John says, early on in the season, probably decent lessons from both. And there was just some very, very good players. I think Tampa Bay will absolutely be kicking themselves about the first goal that they conceded. Yeah. It's just the sort of goal that you don't want to give Carolina at home. And that being said, they still fought back. So mentality on both sides, off the charts. And I'm excited to see how both teams carry on for the rest of the season.
Especially since this was Carolina's second week that they had a 90-minute equalizer to rescue a point out of this one. And even with Tampa Bay having started their title defense with 3 matches without a win, they've still had both teams to score in each of those first 3 games, just like Carolina has had in their first 2. So I definitely echo what you, Phil, and John had said, just saying that this is a lot of just kind of the early season, just kind of the early season matchups that are going to be tough to really predict, but these teams will eventually get it figured out as we kind of move forward into the year.
Yeah, there was a lot for me in this one that I'm interested in. Again, Johnny mentioned the press out of Tampa Bay, which is what they were known for last year. Anyway, they were so aggressive. They were cutting off passes. But the thing that I think you said it was Carolina found themselves looking for the home run ball a lot. Or do I have that flipped?
Tampa Bay was early on sitting back, just trying to hit Nacello and Hampton on the run in a way that felt disconnected. Yeah.
Right. So, which is where, like, you kind of mentioned Phil also just kind of showing a little bit too much respect. Where last year, when they were really cooking, they were winning the ball kind of in the final third already. And then they had a short field to drive up and then finish. Where this time it felt like they were trying to sit in and then try to get over space, like we mentioned the last goal. They looked like what they were doing last year. They finally got back to that, and we saw a little bit of what won them a championship. One thing that I was really interested in was kind of a midfield battle that was going on with was it Tricoli and Porter, who both played pretty consistently as just two dual number sixes, just absolute just ball winners in the midfield. And seeing them going against Giamona, it felt like Giamona was so disconnected from the rest of the forward line when they were trying to move into space. And I think it's because those two number sixes were really causing some issues for Carolina. But luckily, it felt like, I don't want to say like they really killed the wings, but they found some spaces out wide. Maybe you wouldn't have last year against Tampa Bay. So maybe a little bit of pitfalls there. But Mia Corbin, like you mentioned, Phil, I mean, Mia Corbin kind of playing that number 10 shadow striker role. I mean, I can't think of many other people besides maybe Addie McCain who's better than her, which like if you're being compared to Addie McCain, not bad. Right. And on the other side of that, you see, like you mentioned, Mackenzie George doesn't quite look like she's on her form as she was last year. Riley Mattingly Parker on the other side. It felt like there was a little bit of a better connection happening down that left-hand side. But if Mackenzie George becomes who Mackenzie George is, Carolina is going to be nuts going forward.
Because she's a goal threat from the wing that I would argue this team didn't really have. Carolina had a lot of sequences where you'd hit the big switch, but the winger was really looking across. George is more of a double or a triple threat from that position in a way that I think meaningfully improves them. So yeah, tons of potential there.
All right. What about let's go. Anything else from this match before we go on to the next one? All right. Well, the next one is going to be Lexington takes down Brooklyn. The important note in this one is that it only took us 3 matches to get a red card this year. Congratulations to Lexington. But Lexington gets a 2-0 win over Brooklyn. And I mean, it was dominant. Like, it really felt like you saw what Lexington could be this year. And I'm not sure for me if it is maybe Brooklyn is kind of showing who they were at the end of last year, or if that horse money is finally being put to the test and they are really getting out some results.
A little bit of both. I think this was a game where everything that Lexington did, bringing in Masaki Hemi to manage this group, paid off pretty handsomely. Brooklyn played a different system, right? Like it was 3-4-2-1 in terms of the way that they were building out and defending. They were a little bit more direct than they were last year. And it was still very familiar issues for this team. And I think that's a red flag. Early on, Lexington, they press in a 4-4-2, but those wingers are so active. They just had a man advantage constantly against the Brooklyn back three, and Brooklyn was so hesitant to try to hit a long ball over it. It was frankly surprising that Lexington didn't score off the press in the first 10 minutes. Eventually, Brooklyn kind of adjusts, and to Lexington's credit, they understand they have ways to vary their system in game, namely getting Amina Ekic from the right side over to the left and switching Sarah Griffith in turn. Once the wing change happened, it felt like they just clicked together. Obviously, the goals come from Catherine Barry, who, by the way, they extended to 2027 after this match. Who else in the Super League is doing that? I think that's kind of a big deal. But yeah, the press, the way that they were able to build out, I thought the fullbacks were really good. Alyssa Bourgeois sort of playing higher upfield than Johnson at left back. It felt composed. It felt intentional. Lexington feels like the real article in a way that they never were last season.
Catherine
Yeah.
Berry hitting the bar when it could have been the hat trick was, I think Michael Fuchs just said it in the comments too, but yeah, that was painful because that would have been quite the statement hat trick. I think the Ekich move, like, she was so influential last year, and it just seems like if they can figure out how to like get her consistently in these sorts of positions, then Lexington will continue to be dangerous. I would say the second goal is one of those where it's like, yeah, this is definitely a game where you can talk about Brooklyn's downside too. And just the fact that like they were asleep at the wheel a little bit at times. I think they still were dangerous at points during this game. Like, it wasn't like Brooklyn offered absolutely nothing, but I think their frailties as a side just make it's going to be tough for this Brooklyn team to beat like the really good teams if they can't sort of eradicate some of these more basic mistakes out of the game. I think that's the challenge for Brooklyn, is their upside is still there, but some of the basic stuff when you're up against a good team and you give away a goal where you just let their best goal scorer through one-on-one with the keeper is like, it just can't happen in a league with such fine margins like the Super League.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this from Lexington's angle that this is the first time since October of last season where they've scored multiple goals in back-to-back games that they didn't also lose both of those games. So you're already seeing at least an improvement there. And even then, at that point in the season, it took them 8 matches to get there. So the fact that you're seeing this for a Lexington team just 2 matches into this upcoming campaign, is already a marked improvement for a team that should be finding themselves in the playoff picture.
So, last year, these last 2 years especially, has been how can we make fun of Lexington, pretty much, right? Like, they spend a lot of money. They create these what we think are super teams, and then they fall on their face. And lately, both Lexington squads have been really good, so we get to sing their praises. But I'm just going to open up the floor, and I know it's early. I know it's 2-3 matches into the season. I understand. But how much of the Lexington uptick is from the quality of player, and how much of it is from a new system that we've been seeing out of a new coach?
I think it's a little bit of both. What was surprising to me watching this game, it's a pretty similar system to what Terry Boss is running on the men's side. I don't know if that was an intentional decision to say we're building a team to run what we think is kind of the tactical meta of the game right now. But it's attractive to watch. You can see the defensive principles. Yes, they went out and got kind of an all-star team of players who lit up the first season of the Super League, but there's no guarantee that comes together. And I think the job that Hemi has done, organize them into something coherent and cogent, has been really impressive. Granted, through 2 games played for Lexington, but nonetheless, I feel pretty confident about where this club is headed.
We about ready to go on over to League One? All right. I'm going to switch up the order on us just a little bit because I think this is a little bit more of the interesting conversation. South Georgia Tormenta, they go and they play against One Knox. And who is the head coach of Tormenta? One Mark McKeever. And he goes against his former club in his new stadium with his new team. And Tormenta get a 2-1 win over Knoxville. One Knox gets an early goal, and you're kind of thinking, okay, is this when Tormenta kind of falls apart? Not really. They get 2 goals, and then a red card for Knoxville pretty much seals it. I am absolutely fascinated because I really thought that Tormenta was just going to go on a new manager bounce and flame out, but suddenly McKeever teams are scoring goals, and I'm a little confused. And on the flip side of this, is it time for us to actually worry about One Knox?
So starting with the McKeever angle here, friend of the show, Luke Martin, who does a tremendous job covering Tormenta, asked McKeever what it means to play against Knoxville. And he said, and I quote, "It doesn't mean nothing." So that's just great stuff right there. I
That's
will
Mississippi,
say,
man.
I think this team is just playing free. They look confident. There were moments under Ian Cameron where they felt a little bit too married to the 4-2-3-1 and trying to be possessive in a way that didn't really work out, particularly in that midfield grouping with Tunbridge and Niall Reid-Stephen. Those guys are above the talent level in League One. And when you give them the freedom to roam and explore, be explosive with the ball, that's really paying off. Gabriel Cabral coming into his own and reminding us why he got the move to the championship in the first place. That is a group on talent alone that almost no midfield in this league can compete with. And the thing in that one Knox game, obviously it's the explosiveness of Reid-Stephen that you get against Madison the week before and against Knoxville, but they were really smart about marking Kempes Tequila going the other way. They understood when they needed to absorb pressure and stop Knoxville from doing their thing in transition. They weren't just lunging out Tormenta, trying to win the game in one fell swoop. There was intentionality, there was patience. They trusted the fact that that talent was going to come through eventually. And I know the goals are somewhat ugly, like it's a set piece, a deflection where Reid-Stephen collects it on the edge of the box. But hey, sometimes you score ugly against a team that's as organized as one Knox. I think it's a huge credit to Tormenta that they had the mentality to go on and win this thing.
Phil, Ryan. Uh-oh. You are muted.
So part of the part of the thing here for one Knox is that the sending off is like very careless. Like it's one of those where it's like, yep, totally second yellow, like totally get why. And it's just sort of a lazy challenge. It's Caputo, right? I think who gets on top.
Yeah.
So yeah, and they just aren't really creating much. Like Tormenta definitely had the better of this game in terms of XG, all that sort of stuff. And I think to John's point, like Tormenta are just a different outfit now and playing a little bit more to their strengths and a little less self-conscious, I guess. So it just feels like it just feels like they're having more fun right now. We'll see how that lasts, like, because we know how the McKeever like era ended at one Knox, but for right now they're enjoying it, and we, you know, I think yeah, a lot of positives for Tormenta, but yeah, one Knox just look a little lost at the moment.
I want to push back on the Knox thing. Like, they've lost 2 out of their last 9 games, and they just beat Spokane. They're getting Tequila healthy again. I think this was more of a red card game than a I'm nervous thing.
That's fair.
Sure. I guess more or less the whole like Knox thing for me is that they haven't been losing much, but early on in the season, it felt a lot more dominant. It felt a lot more foot on throat. Meanwhile, it feels like maybe the league has caught up to them a little bit. I'm not trying to ask, are they going to fall out of the playoffs? No, because I still think on their day, they're a title contender. But it feels like the on their day is happening less and less than we saw at the beginning of the year.
And
I think
they've
too-
only scored more than
Okay.
2 goals like twice in the last 4 months. They are not a team that can get in a shootout, and I think that's probably a worry given some of the teams they're going to be coming up against.
Yeah, I mean, the under 2.5 goals bets have been pretty reliable for one Knoxville games. I think this is also another one where just playing away from home is just so different. Like Knoxville at home this year, I think has still avoided defeat, at least in the league as far as results have gone. But in terms of road matches, they haven't won a road game since the middle of July or won Erik ten Hag tenure at Bayer Leverkusen ago. So I do think that did play a little bit of a role in this, but also like if you flip back on the Tormenta side, that when they play Greenville this weekend, they'll be looking to win 3 matches in a row for the first time since September 2023, and just 1 point out of a playoff spot as of right now, behind another really red hot Omaha team and a really good Portland team as well. It's going to be a really exciting title fight, or not title, a playoff battle between those 3 sides to determine what it's probably going to be. Those are the 2 final spots in the playoffs.
Well, let's talk about that, because we do have Greenville, Texoma, and Richmond, Ford Madison, all competing against Union Omaha, Portland Hearts of Pine, and I'm going to loosely say AV Alta, Charlotte are safe. Loosely. 2 bad weeks and they're dead. They're so dead. But right now, 7 and 8 is being fought over by, what is that? 7 through 13. And it's like realistic. You can see it happening. And you have a massive 6-pointer that happened up the road with Greenville and Portland Hearts of Pine, where Greenville's up. They look like they are in cruise control. Everything is good to go for them to go into the Jägermeister Cup. They go up 1-0. You get Wada, who gets a goal. And then there goes Greenville. They're up again, a goal again for Portland in the 80th. Portland gets a player sent off, and then the 91st minute, who else than Titus Washington? It's always Titus Washington every time. For it to be 3-2, Greenville blow a game where they are up a man, up a goal. I mean, it has to be a heartbreaker for Greenville. Maybe they're caught looking ahead up to Hartford, but that is a massive 6-pointer when we're looking at the end of the season.
I think it stings so much more for Greenville because they looked like the better side for at least the first 45 minutes. I wrote about it and posted about it a bit, but the way that they were using the long ball to really focus on Nathan Messer at left back, either hitting directly at that wing with, I think Corvino was the starter on the night on that side, and then the second wave runs from Evan Lee. Portland really struggled to figure out how to defend against that. And it had the knock-on effect, right, of making sure that Messer couldn't do his thing offensively, which is such a huge aspect of the Hearts of Pine's game. And I think Greenville, like you mentioned, Kaylor, they knew they had a weekend match. They knew they were going up to Hartford. They needed to conserve energy a bit. I don't know what else could have explained why they sat back. And Portland just picked them apart. Some of it was Masashi Wada being really good at the sport of soccer. Titus Washington was pure energy coming off the bench. And it's going to be huge for Portland to have him fit. I know he's recovering a little bit from whatever knock he was dealing with. But yeah, Hearts of Pine dug deep. They've got the mentality, they've got the buy-in, and the talent to go alongside it.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's like a bold move here made too, because I think Ollie Wright gets taken off.
Yes, that's right. For Southern, I want to say, yeah.
And it is a big call, and then it does end up working. Like the attack ends up functioning a little bit better, and it's not a knock on Ollie by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it's just a credit to Hearts for being bold about like these sorts of decisions and not being afraid to say, hey, what we're doing isn't working, and now I've got a way to maybe impact the game a little bit differently. And obviously huge credit to the team sticking in there with 10 men and going and winning it, because it looked like it was going to kind of peter out to this 2-2 and, I think it just has a little bit of a, they've got this never say die about them, which when you're in a playoff run and they've got all these home games coming up, in the home stretch, it obviously gives them a bit of an advantage. And this is a big, big result, I think, for Hearts to come away with something when it looked for all intents and purposes like this would be at best a draw. And they come away with all 3.
And knowing with the Jägermeister coming up tomorrow for Greenville, it's really interesting. Just in between their triumph on penalties over Indy 11 on August 20th, they've lost their 3 games in between that and this cup run as well. Obviously you want to kind of look at the cup and say this is an opportunity for us to go get a trophy and have a really good opportunity to play in a final. But when you're 11th in the table and you're 4 points worse off with having dropped the goals that would have put you in a playoff spot in that 8th spot as of right now, it is at least somewhat of a concern, especially when you're going up against a Hartford team who is very red hot right now in the championship of how much eggs are you putting into the Jägermeister basket versus can you at least kind of also focus in on I guess the playoff run. But from the Portland side, they have a really massive match against Chattanooga this weekend, which I think they could have a pretty good chance at causing an upset over a Chattanooga team unbeaten their last 11 games in the league right now. And it would not shock me given how Charlotte and AV Ulta have been faltering as of late. If we see Portland climb up to about as high as maybe 5th in the league come playoff time.
It kind of got brought up in the chat. Hearts of Pine have 7 of their last 10 at home. I mean, look, you guys got to experience it in person. I mean, y'all talked about it during the live show. They started on the road for 2 straight months. They weathered the storm. They get to go to a top 3 atmosphere in U.S. soccer, arguably top 1 in the USL, and they get to go home to that in a playoff run, in a playoff chase. I mean, how can you not back the Hearts here? Meanwhile, like you mentioned, Ryan, Greenville had it in their hands, and after the Indy match, it felt like you were watching a team who was either tired or preoccupied, and I'm not sure which one it was. And kind of what worked for Greenville was I'm not going to say they went counterattacking. That's not what I mean. But they were sitting back just a little bit more. They were letting the game come to them a little bit more and then saying, hey, we'll let Robles do their thing. We'll let Rapapa Mensah do his thing. And that's what happened in this game. That's what got them up 2-1 by those same 2 players, Robles and Rapapa Mensah. And it wasn't enough. We've seen this Greenville team be leaky again on defense. The same problems we saw at the beginning of the year, but not really the same reasons. And I'm really not sure what Greenville can do to shore it up.
Yeah, because you look at that back line, you look at Rankenberg and Net, those are all players that you trust to do a job defensively. I guess you just put it down to the wear and tear, some of the mentality things at this time of year. It's a tough puzzle to solve because if you're Greenville, you don't want to get away from the pressing, that identity that has got you this far. But, man, you look at the League One table, and it's an uphill battle to get into the postseason.
We ready to go into some championship? All right. Let's go out to Tampa Bay where, hey, we've seen that guy before, Darby. And we have Neil Collins who gets to go back down to Tampa Bay, which is fun. And he gives the home fan something to boo about, I guess, where Sacramento win 2-0. And a part of this is the storyline aspect of it. It's always an interesting conversation. But the other side of this, and we'll talk about in a minute with Tulsa, Birmingham, don't look now, but the Republic are catching up on the West. And the West in general is just an absolute crap show. But let's look at the top where Sacramento, this was a massive point swing for them.
I don't want to be a captive of the moment, but if you asked me right now who's going to end up as the 1 seed in the Western Conference, I'd probably tell you it's going to be Sacramento. There is a swagger and a confidence to their game that really feels overwhelming no matter who they're facing. Some of it is just Roro is healthy and in the lineup. They've settled him in almost as this deeper midfielder, as whether it's Ross or Willie or whoever is his partner in the pivot, is stepping forward and creating this 4-man high press that nobody has been able to break down. And you think about that with the goal that Sacramento scores to open up, I believe, in the first half around the 30th minute. It's the pressure forcing Tampa Bay into a rushed clearance. Sacramento cleans it up at the back. And then they don't just sit on the ball. It's the pace of play, the structure of that midfield to immediately work forward, find that shot from range and take a lead. And if you give up the first goal against Sacramento, good luck. Like, you're not going to break that team down in low block. That has been a carryover of the Briggs era, frankly. Collins knew what worked in the back five, trusting a lot of the same personnel. It just feels like a well-oiled machine. Corey Bennett is doing his thing a lot more as of late. It's hard to see who has an answer for that in the West.
Well, and I think you mentioned how they were able to be defensive, and I think that they forced Tampa Bay into a lot of poor shot decisions throughout the game, which I think just highlights how tough it is to play against this team, especially when you're playing from behind. Obviously, there's a bit of luck about Roro's goal in terms of, like, it takes a gigantic deflection and finds the back of the net. And there's just so much work to then do from that position. I think bouncing back from the loss in El Paso with a win in New Mexico and now a win out on the East Coast, it does set them up really well. Obviously, they've got their matchup against Rhode Island in the Jägermeister, which, it's not exactly the U.S. Open Cup semis, but I think they'll be looking to dispatch Rhode Island. And then they've got Phoenix, Colorado Springs, and Monterey Bay, which, like, they'll probably see as, like, a pretty winnable stretch and, like, a good way to continue to build momentum. And yeah, to John's point, like, I just think this is a very dangerous team. Russell Cicerone back on the score sheet after his public spat with Neil Collins on the sidelines in El Paso. I don't know how many people spotted that, but there was a bit of a row, as they'd say. And yeah, so I think, the group seems to be gelling. Collins obviously has them ticking over the last couple of matches, and I think they are becoming a very, very serious contender out West in what remains a wide open conference.
I mean, Sacramento with just that one league defeat in their last 10 league games play. And honestly, you could probably, I guess, chalk it up to just having also tired legs from having the Loudoun match earlier in that week as well. Not to take away anything from El Paso getting the result in that one.
No, you
well.
can.
I was going to say, let's
take
a lot away. Yeah,
you can. I don't know how on earth El Paso survived. Actually, I do. Jamali Wade. That's how they survived that game.
It's also a ground Sacramento has historically struggled in as well. I think it's been over at least 3 or 4 years since Sacramento has left that stadium with a win, I believe. But Fortress. But you, Phil, you had mentioned just talking about the next few matches ahead for Sacramento. If you turn that on the head for Tulsa, they have their next 3 games on the road against New Mexico, Oakland, and Indy 11. And those latter 2 games are at least teams they should be beating, but it's never easy for a team to have 3 consecutive road games when they're traveling basically to all other ends of the country with this one. So if Tulsa are not careful, Sacramento could very well be catching up to them within the end of the month.
I want to kind of throw something out that was put in the chat. Tampa Bay also allows a lot of goals from the edge of the 18, which I do feel like every time you put on a Tampa Bay match, you see more than that. But for some reason, every time you put on the highlights from a Tampa Bay match, they're always getting bangers scored on them. And it always just feels like the center backs are just stepping a little too late. It always feels like things are a little bit weird on their structure, what the structure is, where the structure is. One thing that I'm super fascinated that has been going down here. By the way, is Casciato already down there? Is he officially started? Yeah.
Yeah, he's been there for
that's what I thought.
For a while.
Yeah. That's what I thought, but
They've been better.
They have been better.
There. I would say I'd venture
100%. And then this was Sacramento as a steamroller.
Yeah.
But I've been fascinated with the back line decisions where you have I'm specifically looking at Van Kazeel because, I mean, Castellanos and Guillen, they are what they are. But putting Thomas Van Kazeel as center back and Lawrence White at like CDM-ish it's like at times it looks like they're playing with 4 center backs because, well, Lawrence White is a center back and Thomas Van Kaziel is a center back, center mid. So you just kind of have 2 guys being the same guy. And I don't know. It just looks bizarre back there at times. I don't really know what the thought process is because I really don't have CDM as in White's calling card.
He's done it previously and been good at it. And I think he's actually been very bright at that position. But they're really having him try to be like a box-to-box ball carrier in a way that leaves that area on the edge of the box unprotected. Both he and Lewis Hilton really want to be progressive with their game. And we've seen so many times this season where the center backs are just making mistakes. So they've got this inbred conservatism to them at times where the result is that Tampa Bay has given up a 10% conversion rate on shots outside the box. That's terrible. Like twice as high as anybody else in the league, essentially. Oakland is at 13%, which I don't know what the Roots are doing. Like those two are outliers by a mile, but totally speaks to what you're seeing and kind of that weird mix that they've got in the pivot and in the back line.
When you think about Hilton,
Monterey Bay, that you.
Yeah. When you look at Hilton, I mean, he is the embodiment of box to box. I mean, every year they put out the highlight tape of Lewis Hilton has beaten the beep test record once again. Like that is annual content. And you expect that out of him. Having 2 number 8s can work, but not when you're looking at a team who has been defensively as rocky as they've been this year. It just doesn't really make sense. I don't know.
Yeah.
Personally, I think I would flip White and Van Kaziel, who Van Kaziel is more of a 6 when he plays midfield. But he's also been an all-league center back. So, I mean, you can't go wrong. But I don't know.
The thing is that they have gone wrong a lot. Like they've allowed 34 goals. It's a lot of guys who were really good in like 2020 and maybe are not as good now, as much as I hate to say it.
Yeah. I think if they just give Dom the keys in the offseason, they can do something.
Yes.
I mean, they can just do what they've done in Omaha and just say we're bringing in Pato and Pino. I know that doesn't fix the defense problems, but at least vibes are immaculate.
At the same time, this team is 5 points back at the playoffs with a game in hand. Like, they might just make the playoffs anyway because the East is bad.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the East and also the West, Tulsa versus Birmingham, where I don't think it's tomorrow. Maybe it is tomorrow. But we have a mimosa match coming up with Tampa Bay and Birmingham, which is awesome. Oh, it's happening.
Do?
Oh, we
Let's
do.
go.
Is it tomorrow?
The 17th.
No, it's next week. 11:30. It's a field trip day. Like they've made it a kids' day.
11:30 on a Wednesday.
Oh, it's
I will be there.
Chattanooga, baby.
But Tulsa, Birmingham. It was a really fun match. I commented on this of despite it being a 1-1 match, it's probably the most fun I've had watching a match this year. And it was just, it felt like 2 teams that were pretty equal and not in a bad way. Like Birmingham has been equal to a lot of teams, but in a bad way. This felt like 2 pretty good sides going against each other. And Tulsa gets a goal from a penalty, but that isn't to say that they didn't create a ton. Birmingham doesn't get a ton of shots, but they were creating a lot of chances despite not getting shots off. It felt like a really even match, and my guy Jake Roof gets a goal, which just makes me happy. After he was unceremoniously dropped from the team for no good reason, he gets to play all 90 and gets a goal for his efforts.
I'm a little bit lower on this one from your perspective on things here, Kaylor. Like, I think I was a little bit shaky on the midfield and the defensive structure. But then you got to that back 3, and they were not giving Tulsa an inch. Like, Roof, Suarez, and Patterson had a night against a very good Tulsa team that we know is capable of putting up numbers. I think if you're FC Tulsa, this was another game where you're experimenting with the 4-2-3-1. It makes sense given that you're still recovering from the Arthur Rogers injury. At the same time, just stick with what works. I really appreciate that Luke Spencer loves to do these in-game changes, loves to change up the formation even from the opening whistle. We have a formula here that took this team to 14 games unbeaten.
Yeah.
I really think that if you just stick with what was taking you to the top of the West, that's going to be better off than all of these little tiny changes. And yes, Rogers out. Yes, they don't have Diallo on the day. I understand why you maybe wanted a different look, but it feels like a little bit too much experimentation at 1OK.
Lucas Stauffer was also really good, which I
Really
think people
good.
forget that Stauffer is like alive because they just have really good fullbacks in Tulsa, so they don't have to use him as much. And when he got a chance to shine, I thought he was really good. I agree. I do think I thought Tulsa kind of like dominated this game, and I'm surprised that they didn't win. And there was a resilience to Birmingham. Like there was a fight there that I think is refreshing, probably, Kaylor, given like as somebody who has seen a team suffer over a season. I think the fight, especially on the road here, like it matters. For me though, I think Tulsa, maybe to John's point, like it's definitely not one where I'm thinking, oh, Tulsa like really need to like get back to the drawing board or whatever. It's like, if anything, they need to do less. Like you're doing too much, do less. And I think they've still got the tools. And I think they're more or less showing that they belong at the top of the West. They've been the most consistently good side. Now it's a matter of figuring out how to navigate like some of these late season intricacies, because you're going to have players out, you're going to have rotation that you need to do, and just managing that is going to be the question. But yeah, I think they were a little unlucky actually not to win, and they created some really good chances that Birmingham, obviously, like to their credit, kept out, and they fought and held on for the point. But yeah, I think Tulsa, I still feel pretty good about where they're at.
And 6 of the remaining 7 games Tulsa will face in the regular season this year are currently against opponents who have a playoff spot in their possession at the moment. So it will give them a really good test on how they're going to measure up against teams from, again, both conferences as well, because they'll have Indy 11 on the schedule here. So a lot of this will be at least determining the Western Conference playoff picture. And then Kaylor, before you added everything in for Birmingham, I wanted to mention that this is the first time in club history they have now drawn 3 consecutive matches.
Wow.
Yeah, that doesn't shock me. We normally just win or lose. Draws are kind of like not our thing. So that's cool. I did not know that. So I guess, yeah, spot on, by the way, John, with the midfield part of that conversation. I think I posted that maybe on Blue Sky at some point of like Birmingham's getting absolutely eaten alive in the midfield, but the center backs are just not giving anything, like legit anything. But specifically in the midfield, you kind of saw guys like, and I know this is not midfield, but like Daly over on that right back side, Seba Tregarthen, who was kind of floating between midfield and the wings, Joshua, who again floating in that midfield kind of winged area. They kept trying to pick up the ball, and they'd always be doing it on the turf. And you can tell those are 3 players who have never had to play on a turf field before, because the guys who have experienced it before looked a lot more comfortable. All 3 of them they tried to pick up the ball and dribble across the infield, and it wasn't working. Tulsa was instantly jumping on them and creating chances off of those moments. But once they got to the box, there was no space for them to breathe. From that, I felt like Damas, despite not getting a goal, had a really good night. He was making a lot of runs off the ball. He was really impressive. His press was amazing. He was just absolutely ridiculous in the press. He was creating a ton of chances. And then you see a guy like Tabor Ortega Preston, who he comes in off the bench, who he is the ultimate question mark in my mind for this Birmingham team of, is he really good because he's really fast and technical and is playing against tired guys, or should he actually be starting? And I fight with that every single week. I don't know, but it's working right now. But I don't know. Maybe he does deserve a run at it. And last but not least, Jake Roof should just be starting every single match. I don't understand why Briggs overthought it and took him out. The best this team was going was with Roof in the lineup, so keep him in there. But I am.
How did Danny Trejo do?
I think he went back to Poland. I think that's what I heard.
I think he's sneaky. Like, to be real for a second, hasn't played in a couple of weeks for Oakland, so I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah.
No,
I was trying to do a callback to me not realizing that he's signed.
Yeah.
Now, important question here: do you think Preston and Lucas Stauffer commiserated about their time together with the Las Vegas Lights after the game?
Yes, 100%.
Great memories of Isidro Sanchez era.
Do you remember when Canseco was hitting bombs at Cashman at halftime of the Locomotive game?
Do y'all remember that Carlton guy? And he was like our best player, weirdly enough. That was weird.
What a team. What a team.
Wow. A thesis could be written about that team.
I think those might be the only two guys from that team who are still in the USL Championship, which, okay, no, they've got a third, Alejandro Matrano. So, yeah, 3 players still in the championship. Not great.
Not great. I am going to ask
John Boyd's video waiting to happen.
Yeah.
The history of the kind of like the history of the Lights. I would watch. You mentioned the little tinkering by Luke Spencer. Do you think there's a world where that is just a first-year manager trying to fix things, like just really getting in his head?
I definitely think it's the health thing to a certain degree in this match. Like, they just decide, listen, we want 3 midfielders because we know we don't have Diallo available. But he's done it before enough that I think, yeah, he's maybe just overreacting to a matchup and not trusting the process enough, which definitely a first-year manager thing. They hang their hat on the adaptability and the versatility, maybe to an overly excessive extent. But we're picking nits at the end of the day. Like, this is the difference between being a Players' Shield contender and merely just being the 1 seed in the West. I think Luke Spencer is fine with that.
All right. Are we ready to really fast go through some Jägermeister?
Okay. My one very brief championship thought before we depart is that, and I mentioned this a little bit on Blue Sky, but I said with Loudon facing Locomotive and defeating Locomotive, I thought I would never hear the end because of my Lads protocol. But John reminded me that Lads also is Locomotive always does this shit. So it is eternal. It is always applicable. There is never a time where Lads protocol is not in effect. So this is a
Lads can be Legion.
And it could be Lads. Legion. I mean, there is literally no end to Lads. Lads is everything. Everything everywhere all at once.
I don't know how we can shoehorn it into Lindy 11, but like we can.
Trust me, they are doing it.
Yeah. And so, anyways, I wanted to acknowledge the fact that Loudon defeated Locomotive, and it's one of those matches that, despite the fact that Locomotive, given the goals that they conceded and all of that, they absolutely deserve to lose. And I have no idea how they didn't win that game because they had 1,000 chances, like in the second half. It was actually crazy, the bombardment that was going on in the second half, and I think it underlines. I think Andy,
you're overthinking it. I'm just going to tell you, that's the Alan Marcina effect. Come on, man.
Yeah,
The scouting director.
you can scout. It's all defense all the time now.
So
Well, I had put into my preview article that this is a match where it's just going to prove that the universe has a really funny sense of humor sometimes.
yeah. And it truly does. The one other thing that I will say is that in a bit of news that I think broke while we were recording is Noah Dolenmeyer joined San Antonio FC on loan.
What?
I don't know why Locomotive is getting rid of anybody at this point because we have about 4 senior players. I don't really know like who's gonna play. Ortiz is suspended.
One like Dolenmeyer who is going to add a lot to a San Antonio team that needs a defender with that exact profile. And like Dolenmeyer, in my estimation, is good and probably deserves minutes in the Locomotive team right now.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. And for him to go to a
rival.
Rival, like, and not just a rival in the sense that they are in state and all that sort of stuff, but a rival in the sense that the West is very tight and San Antonio could easily still finish above Locomotive. So anyways, I think this particular match underlined just how thin this Locomotive team is. The lack of options up front. They brought on Andy Cabrera at the end, but they're rushing him back from his injury. So like it was clear that he just like was still getting back into match fitness, all that sort of stuff. And they now are light at the back because Wahab Akwe's been essentially banished to the Shadow Realm. He can never play again because he made like one mistake. And so Palermo Ortiz is banned next game. So it'll be Akwe Chumasi as like the pairing back there, most likely because Tony Alfaro is even deeper in the back of the cupboard to fucking Narnia or whatever. Sorry. Anyways, like it's just so interesting to me that they're carrying such a light roster and the bar for basically never being trusted to play again is very low. Like it is very easy to become persona non grata on this Locomotive team. And the last point I'll make is in the attacking sense, Amando Moreno this season, I think there's something very interesting going on with his like between the boxes. Amando Moreno has been like unbelievable this season in terms of like what he can do in the link up, on the dribble, running at people, playing between the lines, all that sort of stuff. The second he gets into the box, ever since that overhead kick against Phoenix, he literally cannot do anything in the penalty area. Like scoring, finish, like all of that confidence is just like gone. And I don't know what happened. So those are my things that I just needed to like get out into the universe.
I thought maybe I'm totally off base here, but I really thought that the roster lock happened like yesterday or Sunday.
It's all of these moves were done. The deadline was last night at midnight, but now it's just teams being weird about when they want to announce them.
And probably that whole like deal sheet thing where it's like we submitted it to the league, but it wasn't technically final, but we got clearance to finish it like after the deadline. Yeah.
Okay, because that makes more sense to me because I'm just thinking why would El Paso get rid of a guy and give him to another guy for a team that can't even use him in the playoffs? But that makes a little bit more sense. But also that's insane.
I just think it's nuts that Locomotive's giving up anybody for any reason. Because they just don't have the bodies at this point. Like they do not have a sufficient roster for the remainder.
You are a midfield injury away from just being cooked.
Yeah, right. That's what. If anything happens to Eric Calvillo, it's just over.
Yeah.
Gabby Torres. If Gabby Torres stubs his toe, it's genuinely over. Like Gabby Torres is just the whole team at a certain point, I think. And yeah, I don't know. It's just very strange. Like, I just don't understand how there haven't been incomings with all of these outgoings. Like, they cancel a loan, they ship out Daniel Carter, they ship out Tumi Moshibane, they send now Noah Dolenmeyer out, and it's just like,
hey, but listen, you got Christian Sordo in the mix.
Which, like, he's been good.
Yeah.
But, like, there had to have been more. It was just like they sort of hinted at, hey, maybe there's like incomings too, and we're excited about what we're doing. But it's just all been outgoings, and now the rosters are locked. So it's like, okay, I guess we're just not doing any business, anyways. It's just not a serious team, and yeah, I just needed to say that.
Lads, real fast, let's take some shots of glory. Where we have Rhode Island taking on Sacramento, where Rhode Island does get the victory over Birmingham, and Sacramento go through on penalties over Loudoun. That is their road to the playoffs. And in theory, this looks like a straight-ahead matchup. Rhode Island has been getting a little bit better throughout the weeks, although the Louisville takes them down because Louisville. But home has still been a bit of a house of horrors for Rhode Island. Meanwhile, Sacramento, as we have mentioned, is fighting for and might be the favorite for the West. I mean, I'm just going to give you guys percentages. Are any of you above a 45% chance that Rhode Island wins this game?
No.
Wait, hold on. I'm looking at fixture congestion because because what I'm thinking is, how looking ahead is Sacramento to Phoenix? Like, that's my only. That's Sacramento, the only.
They did rest Christian Pirano at the weekend. They started Ryan JJ in the back line.
Yeah, true.
They feel like they want this trophy.
Yeah.
Also,
Rhode Island went for it against Louisville, and they just lost Corcoran, who got recalled on loud.
Yeah, Sacramento resting players in the league and then still winning in Tampa is just really crazy. So, yeah, it's no. Short answer, no.
For what it's worth, if you're on Bet365 now, please go hop on Sacramento to at least moneyline odds, because they're for some reason an underdog to Rhode Island in this game.
Wild.
Wow. Magic of the USL.
Okay, so follow-up question. For Rhode Island to win in regular time, not PKs, for Rhode Island to win in regular time, what has to happen?
A red card.
Yeah. we know this Rhode Island team can defend, right? They did against Louisville pretty admirably. The goal is what it is. If they start somebody who can do a thing on the counterattack, which this season is not JJ Williams. So if you get maybe a Dwayne Atkinson in the mix, maybe you let Quizera leak out a little bit more often at the left side, and you just find that one moment, hey, you go up 1-0, anything can happen. There's a real formula for Rhode Island to go and do that. Do I think it happens? No, but the potential is there.
Is there a world where this is a Brito game? Like a match where he could really shape up in that midfield / forward line?
I mean, with Corcoran out, somebody's got to come into the mix, right? I think he is underrated for his technicality, can make a difference in those more transitional situations with some of what he provides in terms of the technique. I like it, and I think he could be influential off the bench. Am I going to hang my hat on Joe Brito coming into this game and beating Sacramento? No, I am not.
I don't know. Thinking about this Rhode Island team, it just really underlines again, like the conversation we had however many months ago when they signed Corcoran, and we're like, fine move. What does this do for the fact that you can't score? And yeah, I don't know. I was also just looking back at the stats for Rhode Island Louisville, and what a diabolical match. Like, I can't believe that it should be illegal to even like televise it. Like, the YouTube highlights should be banned. That's absolutely crazy. 0.11 to 0.44 XG is absolutely sicko shit. That's crazy.
All right.
But I guess holding Louisville to 0.11 XG, maybe that's the thing. Like maybe that's the thing for Rhode Island is just like John
defend
said,
for
like
your
just
life
defend, just hold on.
Defend for your life, make it to PKs.
Even if you think comparatively with the matchup, they sat back against Louisville because Louisville didn't have Goodrum and was starting Niall McCabe and Evan Davila. I think like that was a second choice Louisville team that never really has a classic number 10. Sacramento is going to have Roro. They're going to have Cicerone cutting through you. Pirano can dribble against anybody. Sacramento has a different layer to their offense that I think is going to be hard to stop.
Yeah.
How about we go up, because it feels like we are not rooting for Clamico Part 4. This Greenville team has cooled off a lot since getting the upset. We talked about it earlier today. Meanwhile, Hartford just keeps getting better. They've dropped a match recently, but still, this is a Hartford team vying for top 4 in the East. I'm going to ask the same question. Is there a 45% chance or better that Greenville wins this game in regulation?
Maybe I'm an idiot, but I think the answer is yes on this one. Like, I'm closer to 50-50, and I know Hartford has been resting and prepping. I think about what Greenville does best, and it's adjust to the matchup. The Hearts of Pine game, they came out, they went press for press, and it worked, and then they went a little bit into rest mode. We've seen Greenville come up against teams like Chattanooga, for instance, go for much more of a solid double pivot, use Chapa as this tucked-in number 10. There's a pretty similar shape, directness with the ball between Hartford and the Red Wolves, and it's not a perfect comparison because of all that offensive talent that Hartford brings to the table. But I think Rick Wright knows what he's doing in terms of the game plan. I think Greenville has the difference makers, whether it's Mensah, maybe Castro's healthy. I don't really know what his deal is. I'm a huge Connor Evans guy. There's enough talent on the Triumph to back up the tactical noose that I think maybe it is 45% chance that they win and it's still Hartford favored, but I can see the scenario a lot more clearly here.
I think, I don't know, this Hartford as it is, just, it does feel a little bit beyond Greenville, maybe a little bit. I would say the hope that they have is that, Hartford did like lose to Indy. So like for as high as we are on Hartford, they did lose. So if it bleeds, we can kill it, I guess, is the message for Greenville. I think it'll be interesting to see how Hartford approaches it, because there is a world in which they sort of approach this too cavalier, or thinking that they'll be able to create a lot. And Greenville does sucker punch them. And I don't think there'll be any question, like John was saying, like that Greenville will be fully up for it, and they'll definitely give Hartford a fight. I think it's just a matter of which Hartford shows up, because if it's one that's clinical in any way, like I think it's probably curtains for Greenville.
And for what it's worth, you can get at least around even money odds on Greenville to have a win in regulation or to be tied at the end of 90.
Not bad.
So I guess for me, I'm with you, John. I'm pretty 50-50 on this match. And I think what that's telling me, and it's my gut, I do think this goes to penalties. I think when we have seen Greenville at their absolute best, they have defended like their hair's on fire. They get in a compact shape, and they let a Chopper Herrera do his thing. They let Evans spray the ball all around the field on a counterattack, get Robles, get Mensah in behind, let them get a chance on goal, convert, and defend like mad. Maybe they'll let one through, and it's 1-1 into penalties. Guess what? That's exactly how they beat Indy. I think you're right, Phil. If it's a Hartford team that is clinical and they take their chances, because they're going to get them, then yeah, it'll be curtains for Greenville. I agree. But Hartford also has to look ahead at the league. They have to pay attention to the league. Right now, this may be all Greenville's playing for. Hartford has a full playoff now ready to get ready for and possibly get home playoffs. I think that Greenville's looking at silverware and money, that maybe Hartford has to focus on some other things. I'm not saying they rest anybody, but in terms of, are we going to press this league one side for the last 15 minutes and risk one of our guys getting hurt? Maybe not. Maybe that's where Greenville can close this out and get into PKs, where I honestly feel pretty good about them in PKs. They've been really good at them. So, yeah.
Don't you throw any shade, intentional or otherwise, at Anthony Siaha, who has quickly become my favorite goalkeeper in the USL. Like, that guy is swagger personified.
That is a fantastic point. There's not many other goalkeepers I want in net right now in the USL facing a PK, because dude is just on a different planet.
And what I will say about Hartford, they had to go down to Miami on Saturday. They're back home for this one. They're in Monterey next Saturday. That's grueling. And I know they've been planning around this game in particular. Curious to see if we get Haji Berry in his Hartford debut, possibly, frankly. But yeah, they're just going to be a tired team. And I know Greenville has had games too, but a trip from Greenville to Naples is a little bit different than the cross-country travel we're seeing for Hartford. So interesting wrinkle at a minimum.
The most fun outcome, I think we can all agree, is Rhode Island and Greenville in the final. Like, the two worst teams, on paper, being in the final is the more fun outcome.
By the way, I'm putting it down. I'm going if it's Clamico. Like, give me Clamico.
Yeah, if Greenville hosts, I'm thinking I want to try to find my way out there. I think I have to. It's close enough. But if it's Clamico, like, give it to me again.
Yeah, fourth time's the charm.
For what it's worth, when this final is being held, all 4 teams that are left will have to have games rearranged in the league, which will impact things further, at least how teams go. If Sacramento makes the final, their game against Charleston is getting rearranged. But if it's Sacramento-Hartford, there's a chance that they could be playing each other in the final. And then again in the league as well, back-to-back, which would be really fun as well. So that's personally what I'm
I kind of want that.
And it's also what I'm predicting.
That's the reasonable bet. So yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Miami really fast, this should have been news. Apparently they're officially announcing that Homestead is happening on like the 17th, I think. So yeah.
Good for them. I thought you were going the Akinyote direction, which
also yeah. What, I don't know.
Yeah.
Let him free, I guess.
I don't know. I don't know why Locomotive didn't toss in a bid. Like, I mean, just
the fact
do something.
The fact that he got released the week before the roster freeze and we haven't heard something, he has an offer sheet somewhere that I'm sure is just waiting to get announced. Otherwise, baffling.
Yeah.
Dude just really doesn't want to play for Miami anymore. Get me out of here. He's like, I signed to be for the Miami FC, not the Homestead. Get me out of here. I have morals. So, final thoughts for the night?
We had Spokane Westchester loosely as a possibility.
Yes.
That game coming out of halftime, Spokane looks like a team possessed. They utterly dominate Westchester. Westchester in the first 15 minutes of the half attempted 7 passes. Because Spokane just put their foot on the ball and dictated how that game was played. The velocity are incredible and so fun to watch.
JC Obregon's goal, though, like, what a hit.
He possibly could be the MVP on the worst team in the league. He's wonderful. Yeah.
A dozen goals, I think, now in the league.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Yeah. Wow.
Good at soccer.
And
There's a reason why we thought they were the 3rd best team in the league coming into this. I mean,
Yeah,
he was a
the
large part
talent
of
is
it.
unreal. Yeah.
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 And then shout out to
speaking of
Union Omaha.
Texoma, yeah.
Just nuking Texoma.
That's one of the worst games I've seen all season.
That is who we thought the Double Birds were.
They are who we
Yeah.
thought.
You know what? Kudos to Texoma for being even remotely in the playoff conversation and grossly exceeding everything I thought they could do. So,
Yeah. Any final thoughts on USL side?
Shout out to Athletic Club Boise to get a USL men's record for season ticket deposits of over 6,200 fans. So that's good to see.
Insane.
It's legit.
All right. How about some final thoughts for the night, Ryan?
Yeah, with so much more sports happening, I've haven't watched much lately, but I am playing NFL fantasy football this year for the first time in just ages. I won my week 1 matchup, and John already knows where this is going because I had told him what our league's punishment is for finishing last this year. So I have to bowl a perfect game, 120 pens, but for every beer and/or hot dog I consume, I can remove 10 pens.
Oh,
Wow.
I mean,
So I texted John. I was just like, "Can I just eat 12 hot dogs and call it a day?" And this is maybe just the motivation I need to get that novelty hot dog toaster from Amazon.
I mean, one of my friends just did the 9x9 at a baseball game. So I
wow.
That's crazy. I've been to a bunch of baseball games this year, which I'm really happy about. And I've consumed on average about between 2 to 3 hot dogs per game. 9 hot dogs is crazy. I know, we all say 9 hot dogs like it's just, just 9 hot dogs, a hot dog per inning. That's nuts. I genuinely do not know how people pull that off. With the 9 beers associated, that's just, credit to him. That is not an easy feat.
My biggest question for him was do you put the condiments on it so it's easier to eat, or do you go naked dog because that's less food to eat? And he was like, it's all suffering and pain. There's nothing you can do to hide from it, basically.
Lord.
Hot dog contest, dunk it in water, and it's easier to consume.
Yeah, they call it the reversal of fortune when you have the reaction that I would have trying to eat 9 hot dogs.
The whole final thoughts.
Yeah, I am also unfortunately playing fantasy football for the first time in a long time with a bunch of my friends from college, and it's fun, and it got me to watch and slightly care about the Bears this year, which I haven't done in a long time. And week 1, they just decide to stab me in the heart. I'm like, have I not suffered enough? What more can I possibly between my? I guess Liverpool is just too hot right now, so I've gotta bank my karma elsewhere. So, anyways, it's just that was pain last night on Monday Night Football. I should know better. The Bears always find a way to embarrass themselves on Monday Night Football. It just is. It's just tradition.
Bads or chads?
Yep. It's bads. It's just bad. And then in stuff I'm watching, and this is more lighthearted. Me and my wife finished our Hacks watch and caught up on Hacks. So we switched sitcoms, and we are now doing a front to back watch of Cheers.
Ooh,
very
just
nice.
to mix it up a little bit. And the number one, if you enjoy the movie Airplane or Ted Danson, obviously watch Cheers. But I've been surprised by the writing in it being of that sort of like late 70s airplane sort of vibe, like a lot of wordplay, a lot of like and the episodes are very like quick hit. It's every episode's a bottle episode because it's in the bar, whatever. But it's one of those like iconic sitcoms that I had only ever seen like very brief snippets of. And it's just one of those just one of those things that it feels iconic and we need to watch. Fun fact, it was very odd and jarring going from Hacks and a season that came out in 2025, like literally this year, and then going to Cheers season 1, and a common denominator between them is that Christopher McDonald, aka Shooter McGavin, is in both of them. He makes a guest appearance in season 1 of Cheers.
That's
so
crazy.
I was like, oh my god, this through line of our rewatch habits. But it's been enjoyable, and it's just one of those classic things that it's like we're finally gonna see what all the hubbub was about. But that's been a fun little watch.
So funny you mentioned Cheers. I had a hot take that I gave to my wife, and she didn't completely fight me on it, but I have the take that Cheers has the best like theme song of any like TV show.
It's up there,
iconic.
For sure.
Which she immediately hit me back with Pokemon, which I can't fight that. But like,
you're really on different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, it's a very different energy.
Yeah.
But Cheers is my top
sitcoms
one.
go. It's probably one of the best.
Yeah, I mean, like I knew the Cheers theme song as a child, like not watching Cheers, right?
As a
like,
song.
Exactly.
Like you just knew it. It was just like a thing.
Yeah. So that was my Cheers hot take that I had. John, final thoughts.
Yeah, on HBO Corner lately, they just premiered a new thing with Mark Ruffalo this weekend where he's like a Philadelphia area FBI agent trying to hunt down a guy who is robbing drug houses. But he's also like a failing dad and an alcoholic and doing a very fun Philly accent. So I'm all in on that. 2, there's a Tim Robinson show coming out in a month on HBO called The Chair Company. And I think the premise is that like his chair breaks at work and he tries to investigate it like a conspiracy. Yeah. I mean, what else do I need to know? Yeah.
I am so psyched for that.
I can't wait.
Okay, this is where I have to admit I did not realize who Tim Robinson was until I looked it up, and I was like, oh, that guy. No, I know who it is. I just never knew his name. And it's all based on someone broke his chair, essentially. Now that's just much watch TV. That's hilarious.
I mean, it's simple pleasures, man. Simple pleasures.
I mean, it like there are multiple I think you should leave skits that are guy gets embarrassed at work and reacts in the most insane way. And so he's just been like, what if that was a show? What if that was the whole show?
Let's see. For me, so football, I finally have convinced myself that I'm going to I say convince myself. I finally got myself back into watching it again. I went on like a 3-year hiatus because when I was like in college, I had to go to every Alabama football game for 4 straight years. I hated watching football because I was just so around it all the time. And now I've finally been out of it long enough for me to be like, I'm willing to watch this. So it's actually been quite fun. It's been a ton of fun just to put on a game at 11 o'clock in the morning and get to watch Hawaii until like 10, 12 o'clock at night. So that's cool. And John Fuller put it into our chat. If people don't follow me, because I still post a couple things on Twitter, and basically before our halftime show this last week, 1 minute before we were supposed to go on, I had a kid come up to me, and there's the feather things that go on top of the hats. They're called plumes. And the kid was like, he was like, there's fleas in my plume. And I said, no, that's probably just gnats. Don't worry about it. And he goes, no, really. There's fleas in my plume. And I look at it, and I'm like, it's probably just gnats. Well, the gnats started hopping. So they were fleas. And then I was like, oh, good. That's great. Get that off your head. Awesome. And then other kids were like, I think there's some in mine. And then they all started coming up to me, and I'm getting surrounded by fleas. And I'm like, get that away from me. Just take them all off, run to the stands, go right now, take them all off, put everything up. Meanwhile, like, we're about to go onto the field. And I'm like, you know what? No hats. We're just doing it live. Go onto the field. And it was complete and utter chaos. I called like my fine arts coordinator and was like, what do? I need to allergen safe flea bomb. And he was like, I've been doing this for like 30 years and I've never heard anybody say fleas and plumes. So thanks. And then I never really got an answer on how to fix it. So
jeez,
I don't know. But
everybody in the stands was like, where are the hats?
Yeah, it's fine. It's totally okay.
I've been coming to these games for 40 years. They've worn hats every halftime.
I'm sure I've done something that somebody, well, now that I don't work there anymore, I can throw this out there. At my first school, they traditionally played Dixie every single game. And suddenly, the year I showed up, the music went missing. How could that happen? I legitimately got angry emails every single week for 2 years.
That's crazy.
That's wild.
Sometimes the South do be like that still. Mm-hmm. But hey, at least they weren't mad about the hats, you know?
Silver lining.
Yeah, silver lining. So yeah, there's that. Now that I don't work there, I can kind of throw that nugget out there. I still, the administration, the kids were awesome, but some of the parents, man, that's like, dude, we got to pick our battles, and Dixie is not one of them. So anyway, anything else? We good? All right, long episode. We had a lot to talk about after not seeing each other for 2 weeks. So it's always good to be back. We will see you all again next week, same time. And for the first and final time tonight, here's Alan's voice.
Thank you for watching another episode of the USL Show. The USL Show is now proudly part of the Protagonist podcast family. Please go to protagonistsoccer.com to check out more work. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see everyone again next time.